PPI, Payment Protection Insurance. What is PPI? A friend of mine was approached by Barclay's bank, and basically he went and spent the morning, because they wanted the Vox Pop, right? And he went and spent the morning at the Barclays headquarters, and he got all the tea and biscuits he could manage, filled in all their questionnaires, answered all their questions, and they gave him 120 quid, which is not bad, because they wanted the consumer feedback. Well, here we are, Barclays, a little bit of consumer feedback for you, and if you want to send me 120 quid, you know where to live. Well, you should do by now. So what is PPI? What is Payment Protection Insurance? Well, Payment Protection Insurance is a financial equivalent of the King's New Clothes, because it doesn't exist, right? We were sold the pot. Now, way back when I first started my business, and the bank manager said to me, do you want to borrow some money? Go on, do you know you want to? Go and borrow some money. Well, of course, your bank manager is the pillar of the community. He's to be trusted. You know, Captain Mannering was a bank manager. Oh, all right, then I'll borrow some money. So I was going to sign away my life. And I thought everything was honky and indeed dory. And a little while later, there's a man by the name of Martin Lewis. And Martin Lewis looked at bank charges. And I'll be honest with you, I've looked at bank charges myself, because if I write out a cheque and there's insufficient money in my account for whatever reason, it goes to the computer says no, and the bank sent me a bill for 35 quid, which in some quarters might be considered a bit excessive. And one of those quarters was Martin Lewis. So he took this all the way into the courts. And when he got to the court, the judge said, £35 for a nanosecond's work, a charge not dissimilar to what Miss Whiplash charges, and for a similar sort of service. Case dismissed. So all the little businesses get a little spanking. But somebody somewhere said, hang on, Payment Protection Insurance. What is Payment Protection Insurance? And the bank said, oh, that's a payment you make to insure and protect. Yeah, but what is it? It's, is that Haley's Comet up there? The king is in the altogether. The banks have been caught with their fingers in the till. They've got to give their money back. Brilliant. Right. So I write off to Barclays, dear Mr. and Mrs. Barclays, please can I have my money back? At this point, Barclays have got a 12-week window in which they've got to sort this out. So 14 weeks later, I get a letter, and the letter's from Mr. Usman Khan, and it says, we have completed our investigation and been unable to locate a policy in your name or you in our customer records. So I wrote back to Mr. Khan, dear Usman, please find enclosed a copy of documentation as previously enclosed with my original application. You may notice at the top of this documentation that there is a familiar blue logo. It should be a familiar blue logo. This is the logo of your employer, Barclays Bank. Now beneath that is a set of numbers, Usman. And next to that is the heading, account number. Oh no, this is not very complicated, Usman, so if you need to lie down for half an hour, have a glass of water or hold a grown-up's hand, now's the time to do it. Now, we then have two sets of figures. Oh, the figure on the left says amount of loan. The figure on the right says amount of PPI. So what more do you need, Usman? So I sent this off to Mr. Khan, including a first-class stamp. Never got a response. You've still got my stamp, Usman. So I then get in touch with the Financial Ombudsman. Now, when I'd originally written to Barclays in October 2011, they'd actually got a 12-week window. By the time I got in touch with the Financial Ombudsman, because there's so many people who are putting for PPI, the 12 weeks has become 12 months. Well, so being British, you know, sort of like fair play, decency and queuing, I said, well, I've already been waiting for 4 months, but no, you have to sit on your hands. So I left it in the hands of the Financial Ombudsman. Now, the more astute of you might have noticed that in April of last year, the government said, we're going to have a drought. And God said, no, you're not. And it started raining. You see, even God hates conservatives. So it started raining in April, and it rained all the way through to July. Now, my business, I rely on outdoor events. So I'm losing money hand over fist. So I contacted the Financial Ombudsman. I said, look, I'm finding this a bit tight, and Barclays owe me this money. Is there any way of holding it up? And they said, well, if you can prove financial hardship, we can fast track your case. So I get all these letters, you know, dear Mr. Bartram, give us the money or tonight you sleep with the fishes, and I'll send this all off to the Financial Ombudsman. Right? A couple of weeks later I spoke to somebody and they said to qualify to be fast tracked, you've either got to have a doctor's certificate to prove that you've got an incurable illness, or you've got to be able to prove that you've got the bailiffs about to repossess your house. So nobody can accuse the bankers of being hard-hearted. You've either got to have be at death's door or have the bailiffs knocking down yours. So we can forget that course of action. Now, a friend of mine, he's got, because we've been assailed left, right and centre, you know, so we can sort your PPI. He's on TV, he's on radio, telephone calls, inundated, emails. And a friend of mine walked into the Corp Bank and said, excuse me, all this PPI, do you owe me any money? 20 days later he got a letter. Sorry about this, sorry, we'll sort this one out. Right, now another friend of mine, she'd applied to one of these companies, we must sort your PPI out. And they take 35%. Now you're entitled to this money, but these companies take 35% of it. Now at this point I thought, well, 65% of nothing, because this was sorted out in 28 days. 65% of something is better than 100% nothing. So I contacted one of these companies and I spoke to a guy. Now because the case was already in the hand of the financial ombudsman, he couldn't touch it. But we had a long talk. So the views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management. This is what the guy told me. He said the thing is, a bank like Corp, he said they're an ethical bank. They actually like their customers. They care about the customers. He said, but Barclays, see you next Tuesday. He said Barclays don't actually like their customers. And what's more, they hate small businesses. Now, why didn't they put that in their brochure when I applied for an account there? So, back sitting on my hands. Now, January this year, now be mindful, this is a 12-week window. January this year, January the 7th, I got a letter from Barclays Bank. Dear Mr. Bartram, we will investigate your complaint as quickly as possible and will reply to you with an update no later than the 4th of March. Yes! 2 days later, I got a letter from Barclays. That's from Katie Chandravana. 2 days later, I got another letter. This one's from John Bell. Unfortunately, we are not currently in a position to provide you with a final response. Investigating the complaint. 2 days later, I got another letter. This is from Christopher Larkin. We have now finished investigating your complaint. We are sorry that you feel your PPI was missold. We will not be offering you a refund. So I phoned up the financial ombudsman. I said, what's happening? They said they're making you an offer. I said, not according to this, they're not. I said, but we've got it in records, they're making you an offer. I said, well, can you find out what's happening? So 2 days later, the financial ombudsman phoned me up and they said, we're having a bit of a problem with Barclays. I said, you don't say. I said, they're proving very difficult to communicate with. I hadn't noticed. They said, but we've had a long chat with Barclays and they have told us that they are going to sort out your complaint by the 4th of March. Brilliant. They're going to make you an offer by the 4th of March. Fantastic. It's the 29th of May. Still waiting. Now, if Usman Khan, way back in January of last year, had understood what a bank account looked like, this would have been sorted out. And the money that I would have been paid would have paid off all my debts, would have paid off my overdraft, would have invested in the business. But because Usman Khan didn't know what a bank account looked like, since January last year, I've accumulated over £2,500 in bank charges. I mean, is this self-perpetuating amongst banks, amongst each other, amongst themselves? But here's how it works, Barclays. I'm converting to Buddhism, because if I don't get you in this life, I will get you in the next. I will find you. I will kill you. And if that's not worth 120 quid of anybody's money, Barclays, I don't know what is.